Atlanta at Tampa Bay. Marco, who do you like and why?
I'm not saying a word on this game until I see $500. Somebody conveniently forgot to pay me in the last video.
All right, you did win. I did buck your best bet, which at 9-4 didn't make any sense. Let me ask you, watching that Oklahoma State game, though, that you won, do you think you had the right side? Because it seemed like Oklahoma played their best game of the year, and they still barely won that game.
But you know what? I'm actually a little bit ticked because my projection in that game was 40-34 Oklahoma, and it ended up 47-41 for 6 points. But I just, I had the 6-point win on the money, but not quite the exact score.
All right, so I'm going to get the money out during this video. Let's talk Atlanta, Tampa Bay. What's going on?
Well, what's going on here? The Atlanta Falcons last week had the game of the year for them. They played the Green Bay Packers. That game was,
Well, wait a minute. Hosting New Orleans is going to be a bigger game.
It's going to be a bigger game. But to that point, that was the biggest game of the season because what you had is everybody talking about the two young guns of the NFC, Rodgers and Ryan. You had the two teams that were going to end up with the winner of that game, had an inside track to home field advantage.
Big game. I got it. Now,
you got it.
What's going on?
Well, after such a big game, you have the letdown factor. And you've got, Atlanta. They've got to be careful that they don't get caught taking this team for granted.
So you like Tampa Bay?
Actually, I like the under in this game.
All right, so you think Atlanta is going to be in a flat spot off a big game, and why does that correlate with the under?
Well, the Tampa Bay, first of all, these two teams played already this year, and the game went over. So public is going to look at this game and look at it, hey, went over the first time, it's going to go over again. Atlanta scoring points again. I think it's going to be the opposite. There were a couple big plays in that game, the first meeting, that set up the complexion.
So when
of
you
the
go,
game.
you're saying you inside the box score and look actually at the play-by-play, and you're saying a few big plays changed the tenor of the game, and thus the score was a little deceiving.
Right. You've got Atlanta that scores a touchdown and goes up by 7 and then has a big kickoff return to set up another score instead of having one of those.
Understood. All right. So let me ask you this question. Well, why don't we do this? I got a lot of stuff on the side, so give me your other points on the total, and then we'll do the projection.
Tampa Bay's been on the road for 4 of the last 5 weeks. Okay, they're returning home. They've played well during that stretch on the road. Even though they got a couple losses, they were covering the games. And when they played Atlanta the first time, they were playing the second of back-to-back road games, and the game they played prior to that was a high-scoring game in Arizona where they had to come from way behind to win that game. And I just think they weren't mentally prepared for that game. That's why I'm going to come here. I think this is their season for Tampa because they've got two teams in front of them, both Atlanta and New Orleans. They can't afford another loss, or really their playoff hopes are out the window, even though they still have a winning record.
So it's Atlanta, New Orleans, Tampa Bay, Chicago, Green Bay. One of those teams aren't going to make it for the most part. Or then you throw the Giants in. So as much as the NFC was getting dogged earlier in the year, if you would say that amongst, let's do it real quick. Philly, Giants, all right? So if one of those get the wild card, now you got New Orleans, Tampa, Atlanta, Green Bay, Chicago. 2 of those teams are going to be out of the playoffs.
The situation, I think it's going to come down more to the Chicago, Green Bay, the Atlanta, New Orleans. Whoever finishes in second place in those 2 divisions are going to be the wild card.
So you think either Giants or Eagles are not making the playoffs?
No, whichever one doesn't win the division, I think is not going to make the playoffs. Yes.
And a lot of people just 2 weeks ago thought the Giants were the best team in the NFC.
Right, and then 2 weeks after that thought they were a fraud. That's as fast as they changed their mind.
Now, so you're saying because Tampa's so motivated, that lends towards less scoring because intense defense, et cetera, conservative play.
Absolutely.
Okay, so give us your projection.
I have the game. I actually still have Atlanta pulling off the win, but I got them 20-17.
Okay, Tampa has covered 5 straight, like you said, playing really well. I don't think they're public enough that usually when a team gets hot like that, there's an adjustment to the line. I don't really think that's happened yet. which would make me want to go with Atlanta if there had been. So I think there probably still is some value on Tampa. But here's what makes me think when it comes to just general public perception. I don't like this spot. Out of the last 16 home games, how many do you think Tampa's covered? 3.
3. Okay.
3 and 13 at home. It must something about these Florida teams because Miami's got a horrible home record. Is it for whatever reason this home field isn't there? Now Tampa has covered 6 of 7 in this series, which I'm not exact. Now again, new coach with Tampa. This is the 3rd year for the Tampa coach, right? Or is it the second year?
I'm not sure on how many years.
So maybe that's something that isn't as pertinent. Now, the last point I would make is Vegas has really been slow to come around on Atlanta, which might, if you disagree, might mean there's value on Atlanta. ESPN's had Atlanta as the number 1 team for 2 straight weeks, last week and this week. Clearly, after the big win over Green Bay, they're not going to get supplanted from number 1. Vegas had them 7 2 weeks ago, or last week. This week, they have them 5. So Vegas and ESPN are really disconnected here. So my question is, where do you have Atlanta?
Well, I think the reason that there's the disconnect there is because, and we've got to see this stat the last several weeks, everybody puts the number up about Ryan at home. He's now, 18-1 or 19?
I think it's 19.
19-1 at home, in the Georgia Dome, which means then he's just average on the road. So I think that that's why you're getting Vegas with the difference on the team, because Vegas looks at numbers. ESPN, we've talked about it so many times, it's what you see with your eyes. And
Atlanta's, but except the ESPN rankings are John Clayton, these guys that are experts at this stuff. I do think Vegas is sharper projecting games than John Clayton and the crew, but I don't think they're idiots. I mean, they like Atlanta. Vegas doesn't. I'm not so sure, but you do bring up another good point, that home-road dichotomy. This is an Atlanta team that's had a number of premier games at home. The Baltimore game on Thursday night, now this Green Bay game.
2 of them in the last 3 weeks, and both on prime time.
And they won both games as pick 'em. They weren't favored really. So I think that there's probably a lot of love for Atlanta going on the road now against a desperate, probably slightly underrated Tampa Bay team. I think there's value on Tampa. I just can't bet a home team that's 3 of 16 at home. All right, Doug, if you want to go to the head-to-head, I'll let you here. All right, so we're 3 winners and 2 winners, 3 and 2
right
on the season.
So that 500 is sheer profit.
Oh, you probably still have the other. Who knows what? Yeah, your wallet. It's one of those the moths fly out kind of things.
Thank you, sir. Love doing business.
Now I got to tell a story real quick. Marco was playing poker. I'm going to look at the camera here, Dustin. Marco. Well, you know what you should do though? Go head to head so we can see Marco's reaction.
When I go through the screen with a fist.
So I'm going to look at my camera because that's what I should have head to head. So we were at the Venetian, and we had a meeting with a guy in the industry, and Marco got down there. He started playing after lunch or whatever, and he comes home and goes, "Oh, I can't play Ace King. I can't play Ace King." Third straight time he went all in with Ace King. I thought he had played it right in most spots, though not that one in particular. Then I go and I'm playing my game, and lo and behold, it's like 2 hours I don't see Marco. And lo and behold, I see Marco walk in, and I smile, and he's got a rack of white chips. Now, white chips are dollar chips. Now, here's the thing that threw me for a second. I've been playing a little bit at the Suncoast that has a pretty big game on Monday and Wednesday. Their $500 chips are white chips. So I was actually thinking, does he have a rack of, then I thought, and I looked a little closer, and they were single dollar chips. Like the little old ladies that are playing 4-8 limit hold'em carry. So Marco, can you explain to the audience what was going on?
It was one of those days that I just wasn't feeling it. I got rivered like 2 or 3 times in big pots, and like you said, I played most of the hands correctly. It's just one of those things. The guy hits a 2 or 3 outer, and you lose. So I just didn't want to play Texas Hold'em anymore. I moved to Omaha, and it was a 4-8 Omaha game, and all they play with is the $1 chips on the table. So that's what happened, sir. This from the guy that walked 3 times around the food court to find the cheapest soda and who gave the cheapest refill.
Because I don't want to have to revert to playing 4-8 limit. Now it's your turn to continue the conversation and tell Marco what he thinks, or excuse me, what you think about him playing 4-8 limit.
Omaha.
In the comment section. And next up, it's my best bet. We got the Steelers at the Ravens.